So, The French Dispatch was written and directed by Wes Anderson, and it stars a whole bunch of people, including Bill Murray, Jason Schwartzman, Edward Norton, Elizabeth Moss, Frances McDormand, Tilda Swinton, Timothy Chalamet, Jeffrey Wright, Liev Schreiber, Adrian Brody, Benicio del Toro, Leah Seydoux. So many people are in this movie, and it's an anthology movie revolving around a magazine known as the French Dispatch, and all these stories that are in that magazine for the time being. So I remember really looking forward to this when it's supposed to come out last year, and then with a lot of movies, it got delayed due to the pandemic. And I'm mostly a fan of Wes Anderson. I haven't seen all of his movies, but I love his quirky style. I enjoy most of his movies, and I was really looking forward to this one because it was just another really quirky movie from Wes Anderson. And I gotta say, even though I do enjoy this movie for the most part, this may be the most Wes Anderson-y movie ever. Like, wow, like this movie is Wes Anderson's brain on fire. Like, it's just every kind of imaginable thing that you could imagine for a Wes Anderson movie, and it's all just put into one movie. I mean, it can be enjoyable, but maybe it's a bit too much. So, let's start off with what I did like. The movie is very funny. Like, each of the stories is very funny in its own way. Like, the dry, sarcastic humor at times. It's just really funny. Most of the stories are really funny in their own way. There's a great score by Alexandre Desplat, who, he scores all these movies by him. That was also really good. And the production design is really good as well. And a lot of the cinematography is really good as well. Like, he kind of likes using the smaller frames, and I thought it worked really well. And honestly, most of the performances in the movie are really good. Like Benicio del Toro, I really liked his character. Timothy Chalamet, he was really good. Jeffrey Wright, he was really good. A lot of the characters are really good in this movie, and a lot of them are fully realized, and they're really funny to watch. And it's definitely very unpredictable. Like, there are so many times throughout this movie where it's like, I just did not see that coming. And I'm just really glad that I just didn't see it coming. Now let's get to what I really didn't like. Mainly the French Dispatch team itself. The team itself is just kind of bland. The team is led by Bill Murray, and you don't really get to know too much about these characters. I mean, you do kind of get to know a little bit about Frances McDormand and Jeffrey Wright a bit. But other than that, you don't really get to know too much of them. They're kind of like side characters in a movie that's titled after them. It just doesn't really make sense to me. And there are some random choices with the way it's stylized and its cinematography. Literally, there's an entire sequence at one point that's completely 2D animation. It just did not work. It's not that it didn't work. It's just more, it just felt like it was completely out of place. Like, there are times when, most of the stories are kind of presented in black and white, and then there's only, like, brief instances of color, and only, like, a couple of times it made sense. Like, oh, that's how you see the color in the artwork. And also, you kind of have to see the color of this person's eyes. But other than that, sometimes it just kind of felt random. It just, again, as I mentioned, this may be the most Wes Anderson-y movie that Wes Anderson has ever made. And if you know Wes Anderson and you know his style, you already kind of know if you'll like this movie. And if you love his style, you're going to love this movie. But if you're not a big fan of his style, you're not going to like this movie, I feel like. It's an enjoyable movie for the most part. But I just feel like some of the creative choices are just not fully realized as they think it is, unfortunately. The movie is very funny, it is very well made, and a lot of the performances are really good for the most part. It's just, maybe I don't know if I would have focused too much on the French Dispatch itself, but kind of calling it that, just, I don't know if it worked out entirely. And also, with the creative choices that they do make in this movie, maybe it was like, okay, maybe you went a little bit too far there, Wes Anderson. It's like, I want to do everything, and you did everything, but maybe not everything was like what it worked out to be, I feel like. This movie's still really good. I still really enjoyed this movie. I would still recommend seeing this movie, but just maybe think about the styles before, like, planning out your movie. Well, while planning it out, maybe just try to focus on one before, branching out. So overall, I'll still give the French Dispatch 3 out of 4 stars. See it. If you're a fan of Wes Anderson, you'll definitely enjoy it. But again, it's his brain on fire. And it can be enjoyable. Especially for someone like me who enjoys Wes Anderson. So that's all I gotta say. So what'd you think of the French Dispatch? What's your favorite Wes Anderson movie? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.